The campaign was just beginning to move. Chairman Bobby Seale was kidnapped off the streets of Berkeley by the FBI and put on trial in Connecticut. They said, but they can never destroy a real people's movement, for community control of the police has already won. The tremendous educational effect and political consciousness that has been raised in the last year and a half throughout the city due to the organizing that has gone on around this issue is testimony to this fact. Community control has very clearly drawn the lines between the people and the enemies. Every public figure has been forced to take a stand either for or against this issue. Community control has proven an invaluable tool in revealing the fascist structure of the Berkeley city government. The police department can no longer hide its true positions as the bodyguard to the corporate business interests of the state, because these are the groups that have allied to its defense. And so what this does is exposes the police to the people. It exposes the power structure. And we can see that right now, ex-officer Johannes Messerly, the killer cop that killed Oscar Grant in Oakland, is the first police officer in California since 1983 to be tried and convicted for killing somebody in the line of duty. And this is because of the consciousness in Oakland, and that traces directly back to this campaign. We want people's democracy. Immediately before the election, you could see that not only were they supporting community control over the police, but they were also supporting candidates for local office, which we need to do in Los Angeles. We cannot allow these Democratic Party officials to run roughshod over our resources and our institutions. We on the neighborhood council were able to sponsor this event because we took over our neighborhood council. We get a budget of $45,000 a year to do whatever we want with it, and we do this. We don't have fashion shows and block parties and meet the police programs. We have people's justice conferences. I encourage all of you to take over your neighborhood councils. If you're in college, take over your student government. If you're in a union, take over your union executive board. We need to get our hands on resources and turn them into weapons for the hands of the people. And you can see that on March 28th, 8 days before the election, the response of the city and the police department was to plant explosives and blow up the Black Panther Party headquarters in San Francisco. But that didn't stop anything, because last year in Oakland, you have the old and the new, Jabari Shaw from the Black Riders Liberation Party, Emory Douglas, the artist for the Black Panther Party, Bobby Seale, still mean mugging, and Amiri Baraka, who taught me about community control over the police. Emory Douglas continuing to advance revolutionary art and cultural revolution. This is the petition that the Panthers distributed with the Committee to Combat Fascism in 1971 in Oakland. This is what we have to model ourselves after. They're calling for complete community control over the police. They collected 15,000 signatures to put the question on the ballot. They wanted all police officers to live in the jurisdiction of the departments that they served, so that the people could know where they lived, where their children go to school, what time they would leave their houses in the morning, so that they can see them. This wasn't just a local issue, it's a national and international issue. But by organizing locally, you could impact on national and international things that you otherwise wouldn't have the power and the ability to impact on. Further coverage of the campaign. They said that they wanted to control the police departments on the instructions from the people. This is the way that the petition was written. Former Mayor Ron Dellums, when Oscar Grant was killed, at the time was congressman. He spoke in favor of community control over the police at that time. He said it brings democracy that much closer to the people. And you can see that it spread across the country. In 1968, the Black Panther Party in New York City sued to get the city to hand over control of the local police to community groups. In Chicago in 1968, Fred Hampton instigated a community control of the police project. In July of 1969, the Conference United Front Against Fascism in Oakland for 3 days, the goal to plan and discuss community control over the police. In Philadelphia in 1969, the Black Panther offices raided by the FBI, who took the records and petitions for community control over the police. In Milwaukee in 1969, the Black Panther Party began their push for community control over the police. So here we are in Los Angeles, and for those of you who remember Margaret Mitchell, the homeless woman that was pushing the shopping cart up, Fairfax, La Brea, if I have it right. She was about 100 pounds. She's about 5 feet tall. The police confronted her. They said she reached for a screwdriver, a fully automatic screwdriver, out of her shopping cart, and so they killed her. And so the discipline structure, the command structure for the Los Angeles Police Department is that we have a police commission that is supposed to investigate all these uses of force by the police. And so the police commission investigated and found that it was an out-of-policy use of force, that the police officer was wrong to kill Margaret Mitchell. But the police commission doesn't have any authority to discipline the police officers the way that they have this thing set up with all these smoke and mirrors. And so it went to what is called a Board of Rights, which is a secret body made up of 3 people. 2 of them are command-level police officers and 1 is a civilian. And the Board of Rights overturned the decision of the police commission and ruled that there was nothing wrong with the officer killing Margaret Mitchell on the street, that no disciplinary action needed to be taken. And so this type of information, the police department doesn't come out in the open with it too much. Very few people know what is the police Board of Rights, and they're always sending us to the police commission to testify and go plead and beg to the police commission, but the police commission doesn't have any authority over the department. Its findings are meaningless, as we see with Margaret Mitchell, and then as we see again a few years later, when they killed Devin Brown, a 13-year-old boy that was driving in a car. You know, maybe he wasn't supposed to be driving in a car, but nevertheless, you don't need to fire 10 bullets through the window and kill him when he's already parked. And so again, the police commission investigated it and found that the shooting was out of policy, that it was a wrongful use of force. And again, it went to the police Board of Rights, and the police Board of Rights, consisting of 2 command-level officers and a civilian, overturned the police commission ruling and said that there was nothing wrong with Officer Garcia putting 10 bullets in 13-year-old Devin Brown. And so nothing happened to Officer Garcia. It was a justifiable use of force. And this is the way that the LAPD shifts responsibility back and forth and keeps us spinning in circles. And for those of us that were part of the community call to action and accountability, we remember that there were hundreds of people that weekly, every Tuesday night, went to the church on 79th and Western, Bethel AME Church. Hundreds of people every week for a year and a half, trying to figure out what can we do to stop this, what can we do to get justice. And we would go to the police commission and beg and plead, and the police commission agreed with us. It was a wrongful use of force, but as we see, nothing came out of it. They led us into a dead end. So this is the police commission. It's appointed by the mayor, it's not elected, and the board sets policy, but it has no power to discipline the officers. And so this is how we need to approach this, the same way that Bobby Seale did, with a campaign to establish community control over the police. We have to change the city charter in Los Angeles. They have it set up as a rigged game because they want to run it the way they want to run it. But if we could collect enough petition signatures, the way that Bobby Seale taught us, we could put the question on the ballot and vote out this police department, vote out the police commission, vote out the police Board of Rights, and establish a democratic police institution under the full control and authority of the people that would have to answer to the community in all aspects at all levels. Policy, budget, hiring, investigation, all that. The underlined part is in small print, but you can see that what it requires is collecting 15% of the registered voters of the city of Los Angeles, submitting them to the city clerk to put this question onto the ballot for a vote. If the successful petition is signed in by 15% of the registered voters, it will be placed on either a special election for that purpose or at any established municipal election. As of March 16th, there was 1.6 million registered voters. 15% of that is 250,000 voters. This is the task. It seems like a big task, but our alternative is to let these people continue to control our lives. So this is what we're talking about. No task is too big if it's correct. At the same time, we need to take over the city council, because the city council could change the city charter too by an act of the city council. This district that we're in right now, this is District 9. Jan Perry is the city council person. She's probably going to be running for mayor in the next election in 2013. There's 74,000 registered voters in District 9. In her last election 2 years ago, she ran unopposed. She got 7,000 votes and won. There's millions of people in the city of Los Angeles, and she's running the city with 7,000 votes. Even with the people in this room, with no paid staff, we could get 7,000 votes if we put our minds to it. That's simple. We could run Jim Perry out of town. The next election will be in March of 2013, so we have 2 years to put together a campaign. But what we need is power. If we could put on programs like this with a neighborhood council and a couple dollars and cents, if we had that type of resources, we could turn the city upside down and turn this into a national and international issue.